Welcome to the channel everyone. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at this beautiful mini ATX case and ITX case from Sahara Gaming. Before we go through the overview of this case, I'm just going to give my instant first impression. Now, I have opened the case and the box and things. Obviously, we've got it on the table, so I've definitely opened the box. I quite, to be honest with you, I quite like it. The first impressions, looking around the entire case, I'm quite impressed. It's pretty rigid in the places that it needs to be. It looks like ventilation is going to be a non-issue from what I can tell, but that will hold true once we build into it, or it won't. So let's get started and show the top of the case. So on the top, we've obviously got the space for a radiator inlet or outlet there. That's why we still have the dust filter on there if it's an inlet. But if it's not an intake, then you take the dust filter off and you have your radiator or whatever it is, fans maybe, on the top exhausting air out. So that is nice to see. The dust filter itself is just standard dust filter with some magnets stuck to it. Nothing highly amazing, but it will do the job, and they have done the job. Dust filters like that for many years, so I doubt that will be an issue. As for the buttons, we've got an LED button, USB 3.0, two of those, microphone and headphone button, USB 2.0, and I think that's a reset button. There's no actual mark on it to say what that actually is. And then we've got obviously a power button on the top. This is probably going to be my first gripe. Why has it not got USB-C on a case like this? It shouldn't even have USB 2 on it at all now. That aside, it's not really a big issue for the majority of gamers. Let me just say that. It's an issue for me personally, but it may not be for you. But don't let that put you off, because it's actually really good. Now we've got the complete glass front panel here. Now this can, from what I've seen, it might come off, so you can maybe change it. I don't know if they do different front panels for this. I'll have to reach out to them and see if that is a thing they can do, because this front panel, this glass front panel here, will unscrew, and it's possible you may be able to replace it. I don't know. If they reach out to me in time for this video to be published, I'll put it down here now. Before we start going around the case and showing you inside the case and all that good stuff that you really want to see, let's just give you the dimension of the case, and I'll put it up on the screen because it's a bit easier to see. They are 420 by 285 by 350. It is quite a wide case from your standard ATX case if you're used to ATX. But if you're used to mini ITX cases, the wider cases are where we tend to be with those type of builds that we do, because, well, they're shorter like this one is, and you'll see why that is in a moment. You're probably wondering, well, where does the power supply go if you haven't already seen that already? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just turn the side panel in view. So we've got a full glass side panel here with non-captive screws. Bit of a shame, but I'd imagine there's a reason they do that, because maybe it's a bit difficult to do that on glass. I don't know the reason, but anyway, they've gone with these nice shiny screws there that really do match the aesthetic, that's a hard word to say, aesthetic of the case. So I quite like that. It doesn't bother me at all that they are non-captive. Obviously we've got a protective cover on there. We haven't taken it off yet, because we do want to keep that clean for a build which is coming up very soon. So stay tuned for that, get subscribed, because we are building into this case, obviously. Wouldn't do it justice if we couldn't build into it. Now we've got the side panel off. You can see inside, you can see where the mini ATX and ITX motherboard will screw into. That is the motherboard tray. It is, as far as I can tell, non-removable, so you won't be able to take that out. But to be honest, in a case like this, that's not really an issue. We have 4 ARGB chainable fans. These are brand new. Now I have had these before and I've tested them, and I was kind of testing them for Sahara Gaming, and we made some suggestions. So it'll be really interesting to see if they've fixed the issues that were originally with these fans. But the fans themselves were absolutely fine. The color was good, and you'll see that in the next video when we do the build. But they are chainable fans, and you can mount them on the bottom as they've got there. And then obviously we've got one on the back as well. Or you can fit them on the top where the radiator or fans will go. Or, I'm hoping at least, you can mount them there if you want to, which is what we're planning on doing with this. And I don't know if you can get 3 or maybe just 2 there. We'll figure that one out another time. Now you can see the controller for the fans here. Now it's a very basic controller. It's like one of those you find stuck on the back of a case normally, but this one is loose. But it gives us the ability to stick that wherever we like it, which is good. It's not pre-screwed in or whatever, and there's only certain places you can normally put those because they're screwed in or stuck in already when you buy the case. But this one isn't, and you can stick it where you like. Now it's controlled by SATA, which is great to see, and 5-volt header connection there to plug it straight into your motherboard, which is also really good to see because it means you can connect it to things like Signal RGB if you want to fully customize those fans how you really want it. Or if you don't use Signal, use your motherboard software. And then we've got obviously the fan header controller there, PWM fan header controller there, although it's only got 3 pins on it. I'm sure they're still controllable. And then we've got an extension PWM or fan header there as well. So not much else to see inside the actual case itself. So possible radiator, definitely radiator. I'd imagine you could put radiator on the bottom, so you've got 3 positions where you could mount a radiator. Definitely 240, 360, probably a 360 on the top as well. I doubt you can get a 420 in there by the look of it, but I'll check the specs in a moment and put that up on screen if that's incorrect. It's going to look an amazing build. As we move on to the back of the case now, you can see why this case is so wide. Here is the power supply sitting behind the motherboard, which a lot of them do. A lot of mini ATX cases do, so this is nothing new. But there is a lot of ventilation everywhere, which is good to see. You've got 5 PCI slots down here. Another thing that shows you that this is definitely a mini ATX case, because normal ATX cases have at least 7, so you can't fit an ATX motherboard in this. You've got vents there, and here is where the power supply goes, as we've already mentioned. I don't know about cable management, we'll look at that in a moment. There's not really much else to see here. IO shield and stuff goes there for the motherboard. Your exhaust fan, if you're going to put one on that. This bit here is removable, so you can obviously screw the graphics card in or whatever else you're going to be putting in your case. Moving on to the side that most people don't really see unless it's got a window on it or something like that. But this is equally as important when you're building your computer. This just slides off 2 non-captive thumb screws on that side, so we'll move that out of the way. This is where you will mount your power supply. It's got a bracket there to hold the power supply in place, not rubberized or anything like that, but that's fine for the price that this case is. And you've got, depending on how long your power supply is, again, you're going to have to take that into consideration. Normal size power supplies come to about here, so it's still going to be fairly tight to route the cables in there, but you've got, I guess, space here. You can tie some cables, and you've got this area here as well where you can kind of try and hide those cables the best you can. This bracket here is actually removable. I can see 4 screws, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, and this is where you will mount either your SSDs or your hard drives. What we're actually going to do, we're going to take this out because I'm curious and I want to show you this case in its full entirety, just so you know, because mounting hard drives is quite an important thing. As we all know, we all need hard drives. Now, of course, we can mount M.2 drives to your motherboard. They all pretty much have them these days, and that's fine. But for those that want to have a little bit more storage and stuff like that, then you will need to know where you're going to mount your hard drives. Now, it will take 2 2.5-inch drives and 2 3.5-inch drives. Now, I don't know if you can take all 4, but looking at this, it looks like you might actually be able to put 4 in it, because I'm thinking you can possibly mount 3.5-inch drives on this side, which will sit in this area here. There's a lot of space up there to hide those drives behind the motherboard tray. And then your SSDs, because they are very thin and they will definitely fit in that gap, you could screw those in on this side. So SSDs will sit on this side, hard drives will sit on the inside, and then it's just a matter of cable tidying. Now, with that hard drive tray removed, we can see that there's a huge big open area here to get your power supply in there and try and route all your cables through, which is great to see. Now, if you're worried about cable management in this case, then obviously you can see there are holes, or hopefully you can see, and if not, I'll show some B-roll. There are holes here to put your cables through. There are multiple different areas where you can try and route cables, literally all around the motherboard tray. So it shouldn't really be an issue of getting those cables where they need to go to connect to your motherboard. It shouldn't really even be an issue if you decide to use cable extensions. Because of the area that we've got up here, we can probably hide all those cables up the top there, which will be really good because you won't see them, and there'll still be a lot of room to route your cables, to be honest with you. Now on the back here we've got the cables for the top I/O, and as I've said already, USB 3, all your normal power connectors there, and you got USB 2.0 connector there, and a HD audio connector for the audio on there. And we do have a little bag of screws. Now, do they include extra standoffs for a mini ATX board? Yes, they do. So there are 2 more standoffs in the bag, which is good to see. So you don't have to find those in your big spare screw box or whatever, wherever you keep your screws. They come with it, so you don't need to worry about that. Now with this access here, well, obviously with these cables tidied and moved out the way, you're going to be able to get to where you screw your fans in. Now your fans would obviously go on that side, and then you screw them in from this side. So you've got complete, easy access to pretty much everything you need to access in this case. Okay, as I was talking about the glass front panel coming off, there is a thumb screw here, which looks like it does unscrew. So I think, yeah, that's definitely attached to the front panel. So potentially you could open that front panel up and give it a good clean if you wanted to. Because obviously all cases get dusty over time. It's just the way things are. There's nothing you can do about that. And then there's another 4 screws on this side where you can unscrew this side of the front glass side panel. This case does have a lot of potential with that removable front glass panel there. Everything being so accessible that building into this case should be an absolute breeze. So a couple of other measurements that you will need to know if you're building into this case. The maximum graphics card length is 410 millimeters. The max CPU cooler height is 160 millimeters. It will support up to a 360 millimeter radiator. This area here can hold up to 2 120s or 2 140 millimeter fans. The rear exhaust area here can only hold up to a 120 mm fan, and there is one pre-installed, as we said earlier. Along the top here we can mount 3 120s or 2 140 mm fans, which differs from the bottom. You can only mount 3 120 mm fans. Moving on to the bottom of the case, which people rarely look at, to be honest with you, but I like to show all angles of the case. On the bottom we've got a dust filter with very, very chunky magnetic fans. That's to make sure it doesn't fall off because it is on the bottom of the case. Now again, as I've already said, you only put the dust filter on if you're sucking air into that case from these vents here. If you're blowing air out of it, take this off because it will restrict the outgoing air from your case, and that is not a good thing. That will cause heat buildup in your case and potentially thermal throttling of your components. So don't do that. Take it off if it's exhaust, put it on if it's intake. Anyway, we've got 3 120mm fans, as we've just said there. They come pre-installed and you can move those about. It looks like they're actually all the way to the ends of that, what's available to actually screw in, so there's not really much movement in that. But they are pre-installed, but you can move them around wherever you like. So these holes here, I reckon you could probably mount an SSD on there, although it doesn't mention that anywhere on the box. There's no leaflet in the box or anything like that. It just comes with the case in a box and that's it. I reckon you can put an SSD or a hard drive on that space there. There isn't anywhere else you can mount it on this bottom part here. But that is still another place that you can mount a hard drive. Well, there we go. That is the Sahara Gaming M808W case. That's something that we weren't actually expecting, so it's really good to get cases that we weren't expecting, especially of this quality. These are not mega expensive cases. These are affordable cases. It comes with 4 ARGB fans as well, and these are brand new ones. And it's a really good quality case. Now, the only issues that I've got is it doesn't have USB-C. It has still USB 2.0, which should not be on any new cases in 2024, as I've said at the beginning of the video. It's quite rigid. It's strong enough for a build. It's it's just fine. It's just a good case. If you want to see us build into this case, then get subscribed, click that notification bell, and you will see when that video drops. That video is being recorded very, very soon, so you can expect to see that in the next few weeks or so. I'm personally really excited to build in this case. I love small form factor cases. They're a bit more of a challenge than a ATX case like that is, because cable management is a bit more of an issue, but I like this kind of stuff, so it doesn't bother me. But there is a lot of room in there to put cables away, hide cables, get them out of view. You don't want to see cables really, do you, when you're building? So we are going to focus on all the build, all the cable tidying and all that kind of stuff, make it look as nice as we can in the next video. So get subscribed and we'll catch you in the next one. That case was cool, wasn't it? If you like this kind of stuff and you want to see more cool stuff like this, then get subscribed. Click it now. Go on, click it. I dare you, click it, because it's super important and it helps us grow.